Salutations, fellow readers, writers, and killers of time on YouTube. My name is Martha Jones, and I would like to use the androgynous sounds of my voice to share with you a few words about From the Earth to the Moon, a Jules Verne novel that has seen surprisingly few adaptations over the years. To its name, it boasts one iconic silent movie, also known as A Trip to the Moon, a 1958 color adaptation which seems to have disappeared off the face of the Earth, only survived by its movie posters and its trailer. A post-space race cartoon version which is somewhat faithful to the book, put out by an outfit calling itself Air Program International and looks and sounds suspiciously like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. And an HBO miniseries that has nothing to do with the book and confounds any and all search results for the book of the same name. Now, before having read From the Earth to the Moon, I would have assumed that the reason there were so few adaptations was because after the USSR and the USA got the space race out of their system, more or less, the idea of reaching the moon by means of a big effing gun no longer seemed relevant. But I don't think that's the case. I think the reason it's seen so few adaptations is because the remake happy American film industry couldn't help but notice that the most entertaining parts of the book make fun of the gun-happy Americans. Our story begins in post-Civil War Baltimore, where a gun club governed by one President Barbicane is full to the brim with members who are bored. Most of them are amputees as a result of their exuberance for bigger and better guns, yet they sit around scratching themselves with their hook hands, whittling their wooden legs into more agreeable shapes, and wiping their platinum noses while grieving the pathetic lack of things to shoot at since the war. And I had to genuflect in awe of the Herculean effort it took for Jules Verne to exaggerate the gun happiness of the Americans. Like, President Barbicane has an inkwell that could be a serviceable revolver with a little effort, and a rocking chair that is made out of heavy artillery. But for some of my favorite humans, it is ordinary to have paperweights made from hand grenades, thermoses manufactured to look like shotgun shells, and bathrobes with pockets on the inside for them what absolutely positively must conceal and carry whilst at the spa. Also, the author mentions in passing that President Barbicane has all his limbs, and that he made a fortune in lumber sales, which of course leads the cynical reader to believe that President Barbicane has no problem taking advantage of his buddy's misfortune and selling them the lumber for their replacement parts. And I'm sorry to say that it took 2 more chapters after this for me to look up from my reading and go, he's an arms dealer. Nevertheless, the gun club is very nearly on the verge of disbanding when President Barbicane calls a meeting to order and says, "Boys, we're going to build us a gun that shoots us straight to the moon." Whereafter, the peasants rejoice and the future of the NRA is secured. What could go wrong? Unfortunately, the next several chapters contain a lot of fairly boring details about how this sucker's going to work. They seem to think that aluminum is a better choice for their projectile than cast iron. It's not. Heavier bullets have more momentum, a thing you want if you're trying to get to the moon. But they indeed opt to use aluminum, not necessarily because it is better, but because it is more expensive. Longtime lovers of Heckler & Koch, if you do not feel personally attacked, you probably should. On the other hand, the choice to use aluminum and not cast iron might be the author letting the reader know that he knows that this is a really stupid idea, because in addition to going with a lighter bullet versus a heavier bullet, President Barbicane tells us that it is going to take 1,600,000 pounds of gunpowder to get this sucker to the moon. And for all of the questionable calculations and the appropriated resources that Mr. Verne lists off, he has this to say about the Americans. As for the Yankees, they had no other ambition than to take possession of this new continent of the sky, and to plant upon the summit of its highest elevation the Star Spangled Banner of the United States of America. He also had the blasting sites narrowed down to Texas or Florida. Says future generations. The next several chapters are build-up. Verne describes in agonizing detail the construction of the projectile and the gun, the supplies to be sent, and the narrowing down of passengers, which are streamlined incredibly well by the silent picture using only 2 shots. The passengers of the projectile, dubbed the USS Columbiad, shall be President Barbicane, a Frenchman by the name of Michel Ardan, and President Barbicane's sometime rival, Mr. Nickel, who has a lot of money bet on the failure of this mission. 20 chapters later, the cosmonauts are ready to go. Once the Columbiad is launched, there is no consistency between versions as to what happens. The cartoon cosmonauts find themselves on colorful landscapes among robots. The silent picture features star women and lizard cat people things who disintegrate on contact. And both sets of travelers end up safe on good old terra firma by the end. The reason these adaptations have no consistency is because in the book, they never get to the moon. Like Columbus before them, the passengers of the Columbiad end up in the wrong place, never to reach their target of colonization. Specifically, they end up in orbit around the moon, till the end of foreseeable time. The end? Really? All that build-up and you never actually get them to the moon? Poop on you, Mr. Verne. If I was writing a paper on From the Earth to the Moon and I was trying to sound smart to my teacher, I would likely attempt to make the case that Mr. Verne's bizarre ending was more than a concoction of an industrial age edgelord abiding in defiance of audience expectations. that there was perhaps a deeper theme running throughout of the absurdity of absolutisms such as gun violence solves everything, or colonization is universally beneficial. Except there was a sequel, Around the Moon, sometimes translated as Circling the Moon, written 4 years after From the Earth to the Moon. 23 chapters later, a dog is dead. The Frenchman, unbeknownst to his fellow cosmonauts, thought it would be great fun to have chickens on the moon, and packed live poultry on the vessel as a joke. President Barbicane is transformed from a blustering blowhard to a mathematical genius. His buddies and he are able to observe the lunar surface of the dark side of the moon, where there is evidence of vegetation and water, and may have been a civilization at one time but does not appear to be now, precipitate the decline of their orbit with mostly luck, and still never make it to the moon. So, while neither brevity nor relevance seem to have been Mr. Verne's strong suit, I gotta hand it to him. The relentless optimism with which Mr. Verne explored the unknown was really cool, and not typical to sci-fi to this day. Authors like Lovecraft reliably wrote about the unknown with a sense of dread, whereas Verne reliably wrote about the unknown with a sense of wonder. Being a less prodigious reader of sci-fi than some folks, for the compiling of the notes for this video, I actually asked my publisher how typical it was to find an optimistic sci-fi writer, and she reminded me of a book called Biting the Sun by Tanith Lee. And it's the only one she reminded me of. Because, says she, while I personally prefer optimism, pessimism sells. Good authors can absolutely do optimistic sci-fi that is also compelling, but it takes effort and most of them won't bother. I'm just gonna leave this here for a minute. While there may always be a substantial market for dismal imaginings of the future, Jules Verne's hopeful imaginings of the future actually served humanity really well in his lifetime. My favorite low-tech story without looking anything up was actually that of Nellie Bly, who heard about Mr. Verne speculating that you could get around the world in 80 days, and through sponsorship of her newspaper ended up going around the world in 72 days. And she could have done it in less, but she stopped in France specifically so she could meet Jules Verne. Seriously, how cool is that? In conclusion, the road to science fact is often paved with science fiction. Whether the color of that pavement is shiny chrome or Soylent green, it's kinda up to us. As always, thank you for giving these videos a shot. I post whenever I can. Meantime, take it easy. Love you. Bye.
Like my channel, buy my crap, doo-dah, doo-dah. There's no time to take a nap, oh the doo-dah day. Hey!